Thank you, Heather. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Benjamin James. I'm the Technology Workflow Specialist for our Financial Services Southeast team. So I cover all things AIOps, Cloud Native Observability, Asset Management, and Strategic Portfolio Management. Today, you'll also be hearing from Carlos Peterson. He's an advisory solution consultant with our IT and Cloud Operations practice, and really the brains behind today's demo. Then we also have Richard Brownstein on to help with questions. So as Heather mentioned, please use the Q&A panel throughout if you have anything that comes up that you'd like us to answer. So with that, let's get rolling. So just a quick rundown of today's agenda. First, we're going to cover a 3-0 strategy, what it is and why it's important. Next, we'll discuss why not all AIOps solutions are created equal. And then Carlos is going to demonstrate how you can deliver immediate value to your organization with predictive AIOps. So we found that companies around the world have a common goal. They want to reduce the number of outages and incidents they have to zero and deliver uninterrupted digital services to keep their users productive and secure. This is commonly known as the 3-0 strategy, which means zero physical footprint, running completely in the cloud to gain flexibility, scalability, and availability. Zero outages, with the goal to drive 100% availability using AI and machine learning to predict and prevent issues before customers and employees are impacted. And last but not least, to drive incidents down to zero and deliver great end-user experiences with self-service and virtual agents in a mobile-first world. Now, as the pandemic has clearly shown, these are no longer nice to have and simply aspirational goals. These are business imperatives if you want to remain competitive and relevant in today's market. Now, most companies are on an AIOps journey, and they're adopting technologies to deliver on this 3-0 strategy. Everyone aspires to be a level 4, with more than 70% of your processes automated and services that are intelligent and self-healing. But most companies are stuck somewhere between level 1 and 2. You may have a few point solutions that help with some noise reduction or some basic alert aggregation. But the problem is you're still just reacting. You have to wait for something to happen, an alert or an outage, before you can actually take action. And once you have the relevant data, remediation is still manual. Because most tools today are siloed, barely talk to each other, don't provide meaningful context, and they lack native workflows. So the only way to reach level 4 and deliver self-healing, autonomous operations is with a unified predictive AIOps platform. And that is the Now platform. It's one platform, one data model, and one architecture purpose-built for all your workflows. Our technology workflows help drive a competitive advantage for your business because you can seamlessly plan, build, operate, and service across all IT functions in both traditional and continuous delivery models. You can align your investments to business value, deliver digital products and services faster, ensure those services are secure and always on, and reduce your hardware, software, and cloud costs. With over 800 out-of-the-box integrations, we are the digital enterprise fabric connecting all of your services, applications, and infrastructure. And we want you to work how you want to work. We'll bring our platform insights to whatever your favorite tool is, whether that's Slack, Teams, the Now mobile app, Grafana, wherever you work today. Only the Now platform can provide you with the understanding, context, and end-to-end visibility into every aspect of your software lifecycle when you need it and where you need it. Now, despite the marketing hype and all the buzzwords, in reality, not all AIOps solutions are created equal. Most tools in the market today are purely reactive, meaning that something has to break before they can deliver any tangible value. And when you think about it, how smart is an AIOps tool if you're the one who has to tell it where to look in advance, set thresholds, and then constantly fine-tune your APM tools? Now, they can reduce some noise and some of the effort with root cause analysis, but only if the data is there. They're completely reliant on external tools to load that data nightly, such as changes that have occurred. And that leaves you with blind spots. For most companies, you're making dozens or hundreds of changes daily, and so you need that context in real time, not tomorrow. I think of these legacy tools like having a smart smoke alarm. It'll tell you which room in your house is on fire, which is certainly important. But what if you could be notified that the wiring in your kitchen was faulty and you could fix that before the fire ever started? And that's the power of ServiceNow's predictive AIOps. Our AI engine, Sophie, understands what your normal environment looks like. And so as soon as she sees that something's abnormal, she'll correlate all the relevant indicators, logs, alerts, metrics, topology, traces, changes, bring all that data together and raise a flag to say, hey, you need to check this out. Something unusual is happening. Here's the insights I've pulled together to better understand what's going on so you can get this fixed before our users are impacted. And here's an automated workflow that will resolve the underlying issue. Not only that, she understands the context of what's happening. For example, she can understand when a spike in CPU utilization is due to an increase in customer orders versus a service actually going down. ServiceNow's predictive AIOps helps you catch issues sooner, as well as find the unknown unknowns, issues you never even thought to look for in the first place. And that's how our customers are able to predict 35% of issues before any alerts happen, while also cutting mean time to resolution in half. Our vision and strategy has been validated by the market and industry analysts. Omdia named ServiceNow an industry leader for AIOps platforms in 2022, and Gartner specifically calls out AI-enabled log monitoring, observability, and open telemetry as critical capabilities for the future. Our predictive AIOps engine, Sophie, is the only autonomous log analysis solution in the market today. And last year, we acquired Lightstep, the industry pioneer and leader in open telemetry-based observability. Now, I say all of this really just to emphasize that we are heavily invested in the future of AIOps, observability, and the autonomous enterprise. Now, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carlos to lead us into today's demonstration.
Okay, so when we talk about AIOps, it's really for many of our customers that are taking that digital pivot, digital transformation comes with that, is really the volume of telemetry that needs to be ingested, right? And as Benjamin stated before, just handling alerts is not enough, right? And really what customers are looking to do is get in front of issues, understand patterns, even before there's impact to a service or platform. So what's represented on the left-hand side is not just the typical events that may be generated from multiple sources, management tools, or monitoring sources, but also time series metrics, right? Being able to look at anomalies outside of what's normal. And then as Benjamin indicated, really looking at anomalies that extends to the logs, right? The content of the logs as well, and be able to identify even unknown patterns. And this becomes very important, especially as many customers are starting to migrate workloads, not only lift and shift to the cloud, but then also migrating those to containerized environments. So these are environments where they may see some unforeseen patterns and some unknown of unknowns, as mentioned before. So really what we're trying to do is ingesting that telemetry, the events, the metrics, and also this logging information, and making it very easy to get into the platform. And from a logging perspective, that can be our own FileBeat, it can be from Elastic, it can be from Kafka, it can be from even a Splunk heavy forwarder. But the idea is that we want to provide real-time analysis and provide some additional insights that we can really understand the full blast radius of an issue. Okay, so once we start to normalize, ingest that huge volume of data, it's really how do we start leveraging ML-based, machine learning-based techniques to really start to understand where there are patterns and where they're related, both causal as well as symptomatic alerts that are generated from these events, anomalies from metrics and logs, and really create an actionable incident or notification. So some of the techniques that we have out of the box, more deterministic, is tag-based alert clustering, where we're really looking at focusing on the content, the payload of the alerts, and being able to normalize even tags that can be used to drive outcomes, right? Without a dependency of whether the CMDB is fully populated. So this is a really great way to get started day zero with focusing more on the payload and natural language. Second, a automated temporal analysis is really fully unsupervised, where you can just start sending the telemetry, right, that we start to generate these events from, And automatically there are patterns that are being created. And there's essentially a nightly job by default that starts to evaluate a 30-day rolling window. And those patterns then start getting recalculated. And what I think the important thing with machine learning is that it does require some level of feedback or a neural net capability to provide, an acknowledgement or some sort of rating that the clustering is accurate, or maybe the clustering needs to be altered. But based on a very simple feedback mechanism, you're training the algorithm to become smarter, right? By providing a little bit of that, which we'll cover. Other techniques using topology, whether they're full service maps or just basic discovery, I would say, leveraging the number of connections or relationships from CIs and being able to cluster related alerts in that way. And then I would skip all the way to the right, where true anomaly detection is really probably focused for us on the logging and being able to identify these patterns in real time and surface them up so that they can be acted on. So once we've used any number of these techniques, we start to group the related alerts and we create a grouped alert or an actionable incident. And then from there, we can be very data driven from the platform. We can start to reach out to the appropriate support teams or maybe even distributed teams to swarm the issue from a collaboration perspective, reach out through the mediums that they're typically working with, such as Teams or Slack, or even in the environments such as Grafana, as Benjamin mentioned. Remediation, that is really the power of our platform. It's our motto, right? Let's workflow it. And that's where we can start to leverage any number of spokes with automation and orchestration tools to do some level of triage to full remediation, right? Try to fix the problem so that service comes back to a normal operating rhythm. And then finally, it's all about insights, right? Being able to provide those insights and learn from them so that if we do start seeing repeated issues, that we have the appropriate information to prevent any issues from reoccurring in the future. And while always trying to drive those outcomes, it's all about aligning to the business outcomes of improving service availability, improving customer sat, and then obviously really keeping in line with the agility of the business. And that may align with many personas, like a site reliability engineer. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into an environment. And again, if you have any questions, Richard's standing by. There's a Q&A section that as we go through some of the material, you can definitely ask those questions, and we'll try to get those answered in real time. So what you're looking at is our operator workspace. Little nugget just around the corner. I think on the 23rd of this month, we've got a next family release where we've got some brilliant workspaces. We have a new experience that's being introduced, and these new workspaces that are being enhanced, not only from a visual perspective using new libraries, but also the experience to really minimize clicks and provide a better experience from a usability perspective. So that's just around the corner. We'll show a little bit of that at the end. But what you're looking at right here is what we call the operator workspace. Now, this may be, as I log in, based on maybe my alignment to a decentralized team or support team, I may see things that I really care about. So in this case, we see, I would say, the priority or the business criticality of certain services and platforms. But very easily, we can slice and dice this data into any other ways. That could be based on geographic region. Maybe we're multi-cloud, and based on the data centers or regions within that cloud provider, that could easily be a view for maybe a cloud ops or other PaaS admins. But let's go back to our business criticality. And what we can easily see here is that there's some impacts to some very core or mission critical applications to maybe the business unit, or maybe even as an app owner. I would really want to see what's the current state of those services. So in this case, we see a order status. Very quickly, I can get the service details. And that's where there's some metadata, about that application service. There could be other things about a history of incidents and changes, even KPIs from a metric perspective. But more importantly, we're kind of focused on there's a problem and we have one grouped alert. So if you go back to that PowerPoint, we're using one of those ML-based mechanisms to really start to group related alerts into one actionable incident, for example, to give me that full blast radius of an issue. So I'm just going to click into this grouped alert, and we can see at the summary of this, there seems to be some disk or storage related issue. We've auto ticketed, right? We have the metadata to be completely data driven. So if you think about the days of catch and dispatch of looking, having that L1 and evaluating kind of the alerts and then routing those, those are a thing of the past. We need to be able to automate that, and then have that persona really work on the more valuable activities that will align to those business outcomes of really truncating some of the resolution times. One thing we can also see from this specific grouped alert is that it was grouped using the automated technique, right? That's where the temporal analysis we can now start to build patterns automatically, and we can start to provide some level of feedback to make that ML-based clustering technique even smarter. But we'll address some of this as we go through this issue. So one thing we can see here is that we have 10 related alerts. Remember, we're trying to get that full blast radius. And as we scroll down here, the source is really the source of those alerts. We have our log analytics. Again, we can pull that from Kafka, Elastic, our own FileBeat, maybe even from a Splunk heavy forwarder. There's multiple ways, and we're providing real-time insights, real-time anomaly detection. We've got other sources. We have our own ITOM agent, which could be, a monitoring presence that can do discovery as well as collect events and even telemetry time series data and even logging data as well. We've got Zabbix, vRealize, probably traditional alerting that's being forwarded to the platform, and then, so forth and so forth. But one thing that we talk about getting ahead of an issue is really identifying patterns before something actually occurs. And you go back to the definition of an alert, right? Something's already tripped, something's already occurred, and that's great. We can start to act on it, but we really can't get any. I would say we really can't get any better than kind of that reactive state. And to get into the almost preventative side, we really have to look at other telemetry types. So let me give you an example. So one of these 10 alerts that have been clustered, right, based on our ML-based clustering technique is from our log analytics. And the beautiful thing about our log analytics solution is that you can auto map. There's no heavy administrative burden of trying to parse out logs that could be in so many different formats. And that's one thing that our platform will do is auto map the timestamp, understand kind of the true summary of the log itself. And that becomes very easy to start ingesting and then start to really evaluate various aspects using different ML models. And this is what Sophie does. So in this case, there's an anomaly that's been identified, right? So in this case, there's a spike in the total volume of logs, right? So it can look at the characteristics of the logs itself, but also the contents, right? Keywords, exceptions, things of that sort. Also, we see the anomaly. Why is this anomaly? Why is this considered anomalous, right? And really what we're starting to see, and again, this is in real time, we didn't necessarily need some subject matter expert to tell us, because this could be unknown of unknowns, is immediately there's from a logging perspective, there's now patterns that are happening that are way outside of what's normal, maybe from the last hour, maybe from the last day, and so forth. So the events per minute is way outside of what is deemed normal. In fact, you can kind of see this baseline here at the bottom being yellow, right? And then we start to track, or Sophie starts to track and raise up that, hey, there is some anomalous behavior based on any one of those models. So, and the meaningful properties would be identified here. So we're definitely looking at maybe the log itself, but those could be keywords from the content of the log. Now, a great thing is as these insights and anomalies are starting to be surfaced, we make it very easy for the right subject matter expert to identify this and say, wow, this is great. But this may be something that is very anomalous, but maybe something we don't want to be woken up to in the morning for. You can mute that alert, right? That's think of it as a feedback mechanism to train essentially the ML model to say, okay, well, for this environment, we now have a little more information to get more accurate with our reading. Or on the other hand, this could be raised up as being significant. It's affirming that this anomaly is truly actionable. And again, a very easy way to make the clustering and some of the anomalies to make it more intelligent and confirm some of the behavior and patterns that are generated. So I'm going to go back to this virtual alert that correlated the 10 specific alerts together to give us that full blast radius. And we talk about the different alerts that have been triggered, but then also we can look at our own I would say time series, because that becomes important as well, to look at various facets of the issue that's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this specific alert that was created from our agent client collector that goes through our metric intelligence, where we can now start to collect time series metric data and baseline and create anomalies as well. But if I look at the metrics related to this, these are maybe KPIs, and you can see here we have a baseline. In fact, what I'll open is our metric explorer, and it did look like we were having some timeouts, right? So let's look at our one of our metrics that we're collecting, and we're looking at HTTP code and then the total time. And even from here, we saw our baseline, but we're way kind of outside of maybe what is a normal pattern. And we can kind of validate that with other metrics that are being collected within the same environment that are fairly consistent. But we definitely see some issue with a connection time, maybe from, again, we have database alerts, we have transaction, maybe APM related alerts, And then we have metrics that are confirming, giving us more optics into the issue and at the time that it happened. Okay, so back to the to our primary alert. We've got a lot of validation here that we had early issues with HTTP status codes. We have either from a metric perspective, we understand there's some resources that that are also involved. We have web or application servers that now are the transactions time for those transactions are slowing down and seeing other anomalous behavior. But these are all related, right? We don't want each one of these to go to different support teams or to other notifications, because seen by themselves is really just a symptom. And being able to cluster those and see that full blast radius really allows us to be efficient with our communication and collaboration and understanding the full extent and even how important that is. So one thing we can now start to do is, even within the platform, especially for certain personas, if this is a potential problem that we have a knowledge article, maybe it's from the vendor or it's internally like an SOP, essentially our agent assist will start to look at the keywords related to this issue and start recommending, right? Start surfacing up the more relevant knowledge articles, so that even from, if this was the first time that I've encountered this from an engineering or operator perspective, I've got something that really seems to be relevant, right? A knowledge article to the issue that's arising at hand. So I could have steps to potentially gather some additional triage information or even some remediation steps. So that becomes important to understand, that there's ML even in the platform, a ton of machine learning that becomes usable from the operator workspace. Other things that we have are actions and remediation, right? And in fact, if we look at our alert executions here, using our flow designer, right, the power of the workflow, we start to document and audit exactly things that are being executed even at an alert perspective. We've created an incident automatically. We have all the metadata, so we do that intelligently. We do it in a way that we also consider metadata about the potential impacted application services, as well as in this case, we're doing some actions to gather even the logging data that would be readily available for those subject matter experts or those teams to view in context. So they get an proactive notification, and maybe surrounding logs to the issue, so that they can quickly identify and even manually look at the related data to help move that process forward. I would say one of the most important, I say the powers of our AIOps solution is being able to identify probable root cause. And, if you look back or think about when Gartner mentions, outages are probably, I would say 80 or 90% of the time, the contributing factor to outages is some change, right? Whether that's an authorized change or unauthorized change. Well, in fact, what's happened here, and what I can do here, let me just close this so you can see these two were generated. Basically, because if you think about the slide you saw from Benjamin, since we're on a single common data model on the single platform, we have access to all these consuming, I would say, data points from ITSM, from the other applications, so that instantly we have visibility into things like changes. So in this case, related to this issue, we have the highest probable cause is actually an unauthorized change. And how we do unauthorized change is really on the discovery side using file-based discovery that can even look at specific files and the contents of those files and see if there's been some change. And it can be raised up as an unauthorized change if there's no correlated change record, right? Someone made, especially in a production, high priority or business to a high priority application service, made a change to a production environment without a corresponding change record, right? So that becomes important as well. And being able to see that. And then secondly, there's some deployment, as we start to see more and more focus on the CI/CD pipeline, maybe infrastructure as code being deployed from the pipeline itself, we can now start to get visibility from a machine-to-machine change and get those details. So what we can do here is take a look at this top the top probable root cause, and this is that unauthorized change that was probably surfaced up from our discovery solution. And in fact, we do have on a database, right? And that kind of makes sense. We were seeing database, resources on a database server, other kind of downstream symptoms of that where transactions, application servers were unable to connect, and maybe due to some issue with the database environment itself. But the highest probable cause here is that there was actually a configuration change within the database environment, right? And that becomes a great insight in the sense that now we can look at the CI. We have metadata where we can pull in the right SME if needed to potentially back out that change or review those change. But we have the context within this outage that potentially there was a change that wasn't reviewed didn't go through the proper process. So other things to kind of look at as well. We have visibility into configuration items, but in this case, we don't necessarily need again a fully populated CMDB to start to cluster related alerts without having again that fully populated and mature CMDB, right? So that is somewhat of a myth, and we absolutely can now start to leverage again the patterns that are automatically created, focusing on different aspects maybe of the payload, the natural language, the text, and being able to cluster those into patterns that we can influence. So one way of influencing very quickly is, even if someone was looking at this issue, obviously the mission statement of incident management is to restore availability as quickly as possible. But even from a clustering, how do we make better clustering? If it was determined that maybe a few of these alerts are just not related, maybe these were automatically clustered based on these patterns, looking at a 30-day rolling window. Well, I can influence that simply by removing these from a group, adding other maybe symptomatic alerts to get that full blast radius to this cluster of alerts is another way. We're actually manually creating a data set, and then based on that scheduled job will be then considered and in the calculation of that 30-day rolling window. So the actions here, by removing or maybe creating a group of a subset of these alerts, is another way to provide feedback and really start to tune the way the clustering occurs. Very simply done right here by doing some actions from an operator perspective. to provide that neural net feedback to make ultimately the clustering better in the future. Okay, so a few things. As you know, again, we've covered the clustering. We've covered the metadata that can be used to kind of automate the routing, and we've got some metadata to really understand how we can start to kick off automation, right? Not all automation is treated the same, meaning that if we have more critical things that are impacted, well, we can drive the automation differently than something that's less important, meaning approvals, notifications, and really that goes back to the large number of integrations that we have available in the store. And you can find that by going to our store. For example, here we have over 800 applications. You can simply have these applications applied to your ServiceNow instance, and then based on, for example, an automation perspective, we've got out of the box folks that can be leveraged for those triage, for those remediation use cases. Likewise, from an ingestion perspective, growing number minutes to value from either monitoring tools or things that are similar to that, right? From the telemetry side, how do we get these ingested, whether it's just a generic webhook or you have some of your investments that are here, minutes to configuration, so we can start seeing value day zero. We talk about different experiences that we can start to share. Now, something that's not new, right, is in fact, this is my mobile device. This is our agent, right? And so based on my alignment, much in the same way, I can look at, for example, that same clustered or grouped alert, right, that we saw. Maybe my preference is to work from a mobile device, right? And we make that very evident here. So you're looking at all the same information. You can perform actions. You can look at all the activity, explaining exactly how alerts were clustered based on the specific mechanisms. I can leave notes here, all the expected things. And then much like in the same way of the operator workspace, I can now start to look at probable root cause. Similar, is this maybe even a pattern of seeing similar issues, like recurring theme that may be a great candidate for problem management. And then all the secondary alerts, right? These could be, again, giving me the full blast radius and understanding of the impact of this issue. The second part is really as we start to extend into San Diego, and this is what we're really excited about. All the applications that you're seeing, and let me get to one of my workspaces here. This is, in fact, on San Diego. This is a cloud, or in fact, this is the CMDB workspace. So you'll see more and more of these workspaces now start getting added to our ServiceNow store. And there's two aspects. One is, we have now this, it's called the Now experience. It's a UX library update where, things are, cosmetically nicer, and we can organize things in a more modern way. But also it's provided really an opportunity for all the BUs within ServiceNow to redesign, make the usability even better for end users like yourselves. So less clicks to get valuable data, right? So in this case, we're looking at, this could be CMDB related CIs. I can do very quickly search for CIs, and then quickly drill down, look at any number of kind of aspects of that configuration item, whether those are tags that are discovered, if this was some resource in the cloud or virtual environment, any tasks, incidents, changes, inventory data. So again, very, within 1 or 2 clicks, trying to make that overall experience, easier and more intuitive, essentially. Another example, and one thing I do like here in San Diego, which is a new thing, which I think for ServiceNow, if you've been with ServiceNow or been a user of the platform, is really the difference between kind of a light and dark mode that could be an individual preference. So really nice that we finally have that, and it's again just around the corner here with the GA date just looming on the 23rd. Another experience is the cloud operations workspace. So we were just looking at, you're kind of getting this theme of workspaces being available and really providing you a better overall experience. So in this case, this is for maybe the cloud admins, cloud ops. You have discovery. You can look at your schedules, right? Based on if you're multi-cloud, drill into the discovery schedule, the CIs, the overall inventory that you would otherwise do. But again, even you can link from one workspace to another. So just giving you a very high level drive-by, so to speak, of again, what's just around the corner. And then another, I would say another aspect of the Now experience is being able to kind of create your own experience. And that's where we have, for example, the UI Builder. And here's an example of an AIOps workspace. This is custom, but this is the realm of what's possible. So being able to create, for example, an experience where you can now start to really create the components, right? That in a way that that you can now start to bring your experiences to the platform. So in this case, the same, for example, the same alert we were looking at, you can get some related information, all looking at all the alerts themselves, everything hyperlinkable maybe to another workspace in context, activity, tagging information, additional info, as well as even, providing maybe a timeline, which is really important to understand, how did this issue evolve, and being able to see that visually from that custom workspace or one of our out-of-the-box workspaces. So a lot of flexibility. We're really excited about the things that are just coming around the corner, and hopefully, this is something that you as ServiceNow customers will start to experience and start taking forward. And then the last thing I would say as another experience, Benjamin James mentioned that we can now start to be very targeted with our notifications out to MS Teams and be able to take action on responses, or maybe something like Slack. What we're seeing is even a growing number of PaaS admins or cloud teams or site reliability engineers that are already working in environments like Grafana. So we've created it's an open source project where we feel we've got all this great metadata, very service centric information that can be very valuable to these personas that may not log into ServiceNow directly, but they're working out of environments like Grafana, and they're using data sources like Prometheus and maybe even other vendor sources to mix and match their data together to really align to their persona. So in this case, we have this is maybe an event management view. All the data is queried in real time from the ServiceNow platform, but it's just surfaced up visually within Grafana, and you can also have links to contextual links back into the platform if there's a need for that. But the idea is that all of this data that's coming could be CI data, relationships, there could be topology, the clustering, metric data. In fact, here's application services based on the criticality, right, or the business criticality, and being able to just very quickly even drill into secondary dashboards. And then what I would say is even having the ability to look at some of our, I would say, our agent client collectors that are providing even metric collection and logging and things of that sort. So again, very easy way, for example, in this case, this is our agent client collector. If I just choose, let's just say we choose all of the metrics based on the last 6 hours here, close this little menu, you can now start to look at all the data that's being collected. It's also being baselined within our platform. But very quickly, this could also be very easy to drill into a specific area. So not only are we showing the metrics, but we can any active alerts, any anomalies from a log perspective, and even topology and metadata about the attributes. So again, just a few little, I would say it was a little bit of a harbor cruise on various experiences that really may align to different personas within your organization, whether they're kind of central IT to even decentralized teams that manage platforms, digital teams, or even your site reliability engineers.
Really, I want to thank Carlos for doing such an awesome job explaining, predictive AIOps, what it is and what the value is. With our unique, unified, and simplified approach, ServiceNow is the only vendor that can really ingest all of this telemetry data from multiple sources in a very simplified manner and deliver meaningful outcomes for your business, whether it's reducing outages, predicting issues, providing surfacing root cause analysis very quickly so you can remediate those outages, as well as building those insights and surfacing those to the teams and whatever tools that they prefer. So I'm going to wrap up here. I'll pause for a minute or two to see if there's any questions that come in, and if not, Heather will close out.